Willie Mays, this A kid, left this world yesterday at the age of 93. Had his own jingle. He's a Hall of Famer, one of the greatest players ever, one of the greatest human beings ever. An American hero, an African-American hero. Served this country, and basically he served his country, and all they did was play baseball against the Army, Navy, and Marine to kick their ass all the time.
Some people say, and it's been, debated, that's where he learned the basket catch.
Yes, that's what they say. That's what they say. So then when he get out there, hey, Willie Mays, he's so funny in the documentary to say, hey, kid, where he goes, oh, here you go again with that old basket catch. And then like the team, it was almost like they were mocking him, like, oh, look at Willie showing off with that old basket catch. And he made it iconic. The basket catch, it was so smooth, so chill, so graceful. And we got some sound from Vince Scully when Vince Scully first met him. I was getting Vince Scully's favorite player. And Vince Scully brought up a catch, and Willie Mays is like, yeah, they don't talk about that one, Vin. That was better. And they go through it in detail. Well, it is just poetic. And from John Miller to Vince Scully, hell, we lost Vince Scully a couple years ago. Just as we get older and older, I know we're going to lose more legends here and there, but you just never expect it. You never expect this day to come. Willie Mays passing away? Are you serious?
You asked me at the break, like, you talked to your grandpa, and I was like, yeah. And he had said something to the effect of, it's one of the greatest San Franciscans of all time.
Yeah. Wow.
Right? I mean, like, that's the way he put it. This is somebody who's lived a lot longer than me.
The city didn't embrace him early on in his tenure in San Francisco.
I know.
Wouldn't even sell him a house in Mariloma.
I know. And threw a Coke bottle through his window.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny you're talking about the greatest catches, because the catch that I think of more than any of them is the one where he crashes in with Bobby Bonds against the Cyclone fence.
Yep.
And Bobby gets pretty beat up because of it. Like, that to me is the one that I remember. The Cyclone fence with the open, because they didn't have the stadium fully surrounded until football showed up in the 70s. And I think about that play that he made in that outfield, because anybody who's ever caught a fly ball in San Francisco understands, especially out in Hunters Point. The wind just blows, and it's like circular. It's not to one direction. Him roaming that outfield and being the gold standard for defense. They made the Gold Glove Award in, I believe, 1957. Mm-hmm. Rawlings did. Mm-hmm. He had played multiple years prior to that. And obviously lost a couple of years because of serving. Yep. But he would have had 15 Gold Gloves. It's not even a question. It's not even a question in my mind that he would have had 15 Gold Gloves. Yep. And so, I mean, Willie's the gold standard in terms of roaming center field. He's the gold standard in terms of being a teammate. He's the gold standard at the plate in terms of the greatest combination of power and hitting for average. He's the gold standard for running the bases, going first to third, scoring from second. The gold standard of discernment, of not stealing bases because he knew Willie McCovey would be walked in front of him. The gold standard of hitting in an era when it was the gold standard of pitching. Yep. And you had the great Bob Gibson and Sandy Koufax and legendary pitchers. They had to lower the mound. Yep. The ball was not put in play much. And yet he is the guy who is named the player of the 60s. Yep. 24 is 24. He's the greatest player of all time, and nobody has a negative thing to say about the ball player, the man, the person, the soul.
Nope. No, there's a photo I saw last night when Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. met Willie Mays.
Wow.
And there were people like, look, this is Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And when he saw Willie, it was like he saw God. The smile on his face was like, wow, I'm in the presence of Willie Mays.
Yeah.
Sometimes you met Steph for the first time a couple of years ago, and we're talking to Steph.
Oh, there's an aura.
And that's how I felt when I first met him. Like, this is Steph Curry. I was fortunate on Post Game Live that we had Barry Bonds on when Steph Curry became the all-time three-point leader. And Mully, I remember at break, Mully goes, like that, huh? Got to talk to Barry V. I said, Mully, they could fire me tomorrow, man.
As you're talking to Chris Mullin.
As I'm talking to Chris Mullin.
Is most people's
favorite basketball player.
All my buddies
but seriously,
like,
there's a presence.
Mully?
There's a presence. And Mully's my guy.
Of course.
But like, he goes, how cool. You're feeling that. He was like, you're beaming right now. I said, they could fire me tomorrow. That was Barry Bonds.
Yeah.
There's certain guys who have that aura. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., was melting in front of Willie Mays. Like, this is forget what I'm doing for this country and how I'm speaking and fighting for civil rights and everything. You're Willie Mays.
Incredible.
That's the impact he had on people. So I want to hear from the roasters out there. How Willie Mays impacted you.
And it's crazy how obviously there's God and there's your family, depending on what you believe in, whether you believe in something or not. And I'm not trying to tell someone what to believe. This is my family. We're Irish Catholic, right? And so, for my dad, it was Jesus, if you will. It was Joe Montana. It was Rick Barry. And it was Willie Mays. And Willie Mays stood above them all. Of the mortals, okay? He stood above them all. And my dad loved Rick Barry. And he's like, I love Rick. Rick's the greatest basketball player in my mind, blah, 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 blah. He's like, and you know why? He loved Willie Mays. He wore 24 for Willie Mays. And it's crazy how my dad's two icons, one of those icons, his hero was Willie Mays. Like, that's how great Willie Mays was. And so I just think it speaks volumes to him. And your thing about how he wasn't embraced at first, I think that even shows how incredible he was, even more so. We look at like A-Rod not being embraced by Yankee fans, right? Imagine 50 years from now, A-Rod being celebrated the way Willie Mays, like, it just wouldn't happen.
It's not going to happen.
It's not. And it's just never going to happen like that, And look, my guy's Barry Bonds, right? But as I got older, I told you, I started embracing Willie way, way more and going down the rabbit hole. And I feel like he's such a mythical character. We are going to learn, almost like how Tupac still releases new music, and I don't know how, and he's been dead for like 30 years, or maybe dead, I don't know, depending on who you talk to. But I feel like we're still going to learn little nuggy nugs about Willie Mays 50 years from now, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And the Say Hey Kid documentary, HBO Max, it is must-see TV. And I stayed up so late last night. I don't know how I did. I fell asleep on the couch, woke back up, was just looking at stats, and I probably got like 3 hours of sleep. It's because I was geeking out, and because it reminded me of my childhood. Willie Mays passing away brought me back to my childhood when I first got into sports, and I didn't have cable television. I didn't have resources to go to games. I had to read the newspapers. I had to read almanacs at the library to get the history of the game, and I would just geek out. And when you went to Willie Mays' baseball card, I'm like, wow, 660 home runs. That's right there in the archways in right center field at Oracle Park, and you see that number, you're like, 660? What? That is just uncharted water. You're not going to get to 600. 660. And then you think about all the stolen bases. He was a four-time stolen base leader. Four-time stolen base leader.
Being a stolen base guy early in his career.
Early in his career. It said, I'm going to figure out a way to steal bases. So 888-957-9570 is the number. We got full phone lines. Go ahead, those Well,
no, one of my favorite, and Willie was so, he changed over the years, but he was very confident, I would say.
Absolutely.
And in the late 80s, I remember seeing the clip circulate around. I tried to find it last night. I couldn't find it, but Jose Canseco went 40-40. And I had the card, the 40-40 Topps card with Jose Canseco.
I had the sticker book.
Yeah, and it looked like he was getting sawed off as he was swinging. I'll never forget this card. And there was a quote from Willie Mays, and he said, if I knew 40-40 was a thing, I'd have done it every year. But if I would have done it every year, then Willie McCovey wouldn't have had any numbers because he would have been walked all the time. And I'm trying to do it in Willie's voice,
No, his
the way
voice
that he
was
would
great.
do it. And the way that he would wear his hat, kind of like this, almost up on the head a little. It's he was just an absolute icon.
He was very confident.
He didn't run. He glided.
No doubt.
He glided across the field, and that little trot where he kind of had his feet kind of bowed in. Just everything about him was iconic. Flipping the hat off if he was flying around, sliding in to the tiniest corner of a base in an era where everyone was trying to kill you if you were coming in, sliding in. He was the most graceful of them all, and it's just 21 years with the Giants. And then his final hit, this is something I always think about. His final hit was in Oakland.
Yep.
In the World Series.
World Series.
Against the A's.
Yep.
I think that's something that's also cosmic and special.
No, they chronicled that in the Say Hey Doc, the Mets series and the 73 Mets going to the World Series and losing to the Oakland A's. Oh, here's Keith Hernandez, longtime color analyst, of course, won the World Series with the 86 Mets. We're going to get to everybody here in just a second. Here's Keith Hernandez on meeting Willie Mays for the first time.
You had the honor of being in Willie Mays' company on more than one occasion.
Yes.
Fly ball into shallow right, and Marte comes on to get it. one out?
At Shea Stadium when he was younger, and I also was in his company when he was older and he was legally blind. And what always came off was, and he was to say, "Hey, kid," he had that ebullient personality, infectious and genuine. And I got to tell him that he was the greatest player I ever saw.
Wow.
It's a man who grew up in Pacifica and Millbrae, went to Terra Nova High School. Keith Hernandez is an absolute legend. And you could tell that he's 70 years old. He's like about my dad's age. Listen to how he talks about Willie Mays. And this is a legend in his own right. I think he's the greatest defensive first baseman of all time. We can argue about that. But Keith Hernandez was clearly emotional about it. It's crazy the connections that Willie has to everyone.
And then back in 2015, President Barack Obama did this.
Willie also served our country, and his quiet example, while excelling on one of America's biggest stages, helped carry forward the banner of civil rights. A few years ago, Willie rode with me on Air Force One. I told him then what I'll tell all of you now. It's because of giants like Willie that someone like me could even think about running for president.
And then he received the President Medal of Freedom, Willie Mays, from President Barack Obama. Let's get to the lines here.
The irony of him being a giant, larger than life, he's like 5'10".
Yeah, no doubt.
You know what I mean? Like that's
larger
the
than life.
crazy thing. Like he
was
wasn't
larger than life.
huge.